Good morning and welcome to the Rewind Show, the Sunday supplement with you every single week. This is episode 216. I'm Steve Brown, and there, I'm going to say in his usual spot, but it's not. Well, it is, for the second week running, is at home, and that's Brent Peter, manager of Bakerborough, and a jolly good trophy cabinet behind you as well, Mr. Peters.
It's not bad, is it?
Oh, it's not bad. A bit of dusting needed there.
Few cobwebs on it, but it's all right. Yeah.
How are you doing, mate?
I'm all right. I'm like the road runner. I'm everywhere. I wrote a ground this morning at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, give them a shout out because I believe they're working as we speak. Yeah,
Alex McNulty and Brandon McNulty's lad are up there on the job this morning. Martin Peters and Tommy Clayton Few and myself will be back there after the show, and we'll be taking the remainder of the ceiling down in the other room. So I've got the masks ready for that. So it's all go. And yesterday, as you know, we're flying down the East Lancs Road for the third time in a week, sorting our supporting, should I say, not sorting. That's left to the medics. My trusted personal assistant and the person who cares for everybody at the football club in Deborah O'Connor. So yeah, it's all go.
But it's looking positive though, isn't it? From the news that we're getting back from Liverpool, everything's going to plan at present.
At present, yeah, everything's going well. Yeah, it's going well at present. I mean, all I can tell you is that when Deborah were first diagnosed, they said that they were aggressive. As we all saw her eye when it came out, it was horrendous. And they said they were aggressive cancer cells, and it were important that they acted quickly because they were aggressive and they could progress. One of the journeys to Liverpool in midweek was to have ultrasound and make sure that nothing, because she had the first operation last week, and they took out what they had to take out, and then she had to have ultrasound in midweek, and that was going to be to diagnose to see if it had travelled into her lymph nodes. And she asked a question when she got there. She said to the guy, will you tell me here and now if there's anything untoward or travelling? And the guy went, I can tell you that you'll know, because he said if there's anything untoward, I've got to stick a needle in and take a biopsy and send it away. So you'll know if there's anything untoward. Anyway, thankfully, he said, I'm quite happy. There's absolutely nothing there at all. I'm quite happy with that. So there were no biopsy to be taken. So she had to go in again on Friday for the next operation, which was more to, obviously take anything else out that was left there and do some reconstruction. The upsetting part for Deborah, and I think she's been strong all the way through this, but the upsetting part were when the surgeon said to her, you won't have an eye for 3 weeks because we need to shut it. We need to keep it closed. So that upset her a little bit. But you know what my sense of humour is like, and I said, listen, there's always somebody worse than you somewhere else. Let's talk about Stevie Wonder. So,
and I bet that brought a real laughter around the room, didn't it?
Well, you know what I mean. That's what you've got to be like, haven't you? You've got to be light-hearted and positive. It
was like that. It was very much like that in the army, Brent, where it's very dark humour. But you need it sometimes just to rally the troops.
That's right.
It just broke the ice.
Yeah, exactly. So, yesterday she could come out. So Billy Joe asked me if I'd, but she didn't want to drive down, so she'd asked me to go and If I go down with Billy Joe to pick her up. So we went down yesterday and brought her back, and it's tough, but it's all positive at the minute. So long may that continue.
Definitely. One thing that wasn't very positive was your week with the parcel companies, and particular road recovery company.
Oh, I'll tell you what, I have never known anything.
This is not an advert for RAC, not a good one.
Let me tell you. So the fact of the matter is, you go on your holidays at this time of the year, and you go on motorway services, and the friendly man from the RAC, have you got breakdown cover? You want to sign up? We're, the best thing since sliced bread. Oh yeah, we do this, we do that. We can.
His nice jacket on. He's got his clipboard. He's ready for you.
He's ready for you. Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, I've got 3 Renault Masters, right? They're only like 12-month old, and one of them went in, as it happens, always happens. If a computer goes down, that's it, your vehicle goes down. So on Friday, I'm lost with my days again in a minute, but yeah, on Friday. So Friday, one of my vehicles goes down. No, it weren't. It was Thursday afternoon. So one of my vehicles goes down, and so we've got recovery on it. We've got RAC recovery. Well, it's Renault Assist, but Renault Assist is linked to RAC, and you get a courtesy van as well. But you can't get a courtesy van or a replacement van till literally that vehicle that's brought down is on back of the vehicle going to the garage.
Yeah,
that is the only time it will get triggered in. So big do's and little do's. So on Thursday we reported it straight away, and the guys turned around, and the RAC turned around. Oh yeah, we'll be out to recover it on Thursday evening. They never spoke to me. They spoke to my driver, and they said to my driver, this is the crazy thing. They spoke to my driver and said, we can't give you an estimated time at this minute in time. He said, but it'll be definitely tonight. Can you leave the key on the near side wheel? And we'll pick the key up. Well, that wouldn't have happened if they'd been talking to me. But my driver goes, oh yeah, okay, yeah, green as grass. Yeah, I'll leave the key on the wheel, no problem. So anyway, we go about our job, get him in a replacement vehicle. Luckily, because Carl's on holiday, I had Carl's van spare.
Yeah.
So that's another story. I'm not going to go into that on this show, but I had Carl's van spare. So Declan went and got in Carl's van and went about his work then, and we're waiting for RAC now to come and pick his van up. But he's done what they've said. Leave the key on the near side wheel. So I've gone so the morning after, Friday morning, I was up early. I had to be in Liverpool with Deborah at 7 o'clock on Friday. So I'd shot down to Liverpool, got up early, shot down to Liverpool. As I'm on my way back, I'm speaking to ringing my drivers up, making sure everything's all right at the depot and everything. And Dex says to me, the van's still there. They haven't been and collected it. I went, give over. He went, no, the van's still there. And I said, so you're telling me that the key is on the near side wheel? And he went, yeah. And the van's still there. So they haven't been and picked it up. So I've gone mad. So eventually, I've drove back to Rottenstall, parked up. So I've rang the RAC. Can you tell me this van should have been picked up? Oh yeah, we've got it on here. Yeah, it should have been picked up. Oh, but the estimated time of arrival now is between 9:30 this morning and 10 o'clock. So I've gone, hang on. So you told my driver last night, or somebody else, not necessarily you, to leave the key on the near side wheel, right? I said, would you have taken responsibility and liability if that vehicle had got stolen? I said, no, don't give me that because it's brought down. Who's going to steal it? It only needs somebody to come with a low loader like RAC, plonk it on the back, and the vehicle's gone. So, we wouldn't. I said, well, it's not good enough, is it? That's ridiculous. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I'll tell you what. I'll escalate your complaint. So So they're escalating my complaint. So it gets to 10 o'clock. Anyway, I'm sat there, so 9:30, 10 o'clock, still no sign. So I'm doing all my work from my new office, because obviously all the work's going on at the club. So my new office is my car. So I'm sat in my car, I'm on my laptop, doing all my work. 10 o'clock comes and passes. Still nobody come from blinking RAC. So I'm back on the phone again. What's going on? This vehicle should have been picked up yesterday. I can't get another replacement vehicle till it's on the back of one of your trucks. You still haven't come out. Oh, no. Yeah, the estimated time of arrival now will be at... so this is going on. So eventually, cut a long story short, they came and picked the van up at 2 o'clock the following day. At 2 o'clock, the day after it had broken down.
Yeah.
And the moral of the story is as well, they're telling my driver to leave a key on the near side wheel. Now, how mental is that?
RAC.
So the moral of the story is, if you see a vehicle that's parked up at the side of the road, just for curiosity that may kill the cat, check the near side wheel and see if there's a key on it, because it might be a lucky day.
1 in 2,000 might just be your lucky day.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, Brent, lots of talking points. We're going to talk about United, Spurs, making that Europa final. But a big piece of news this week, and very disappointing piece of news, was the closure of the academy at Accrington Stanley. What do you mean? I knew this would be a story for you, because you working at Accrington many years ago. Horrible situation.
Well, it is really, and I mean, listen, as an outsider looking in, I'm not involved, and I can't make, assumptions or any assumptions, because like I said, I'm an outsider looking in. But one thing I will say before I get to the nitty gritty is that all the way through, and I think even the fallout with John Coleman and the chairman at the time was all down to the academy. The chairman were completely fully behind the academy, and I'm not saying John Coleman wasn't, because he was, but I think the situation was that the chairman, because of the money that the academy cost to run, but let's not cut away from the chase here. It costs us money to run, but it is funded. You do get some funding. It's not 100% your money that's coming out of it. You do get funding.
Yeah.
But I think what were happening, the chairman at the time wanted John to put in academy kind of players when they were struggling with injuries and suspensions, and John being John and Brent Peters being Brent Peters, I'd be exactly the same. We're experienced, and I'd be saying that, they're not ready to go into Division 2 football.
And you're setting the kids up to fail.
Yeah, correct, 100%. And John were kind of like, basically, I think we're at loggerheads with the chairman over this, and kind of basically saying, I need to bring loan players in. And probably the chairman, with his business hat on, is probably saying, yeah, but the loan players are going to cost us money when we've got our own players in an academy.
Yeah.
Why can we not go for the better players in the academy, and it won't cost us anything? Now, this is what happens in football when you've got successful business people they are successful, but they haven't got the first clue about football and logistics.
They're looking at the spreadsheets rather than looking what's going on the pitch.
Correct. So, it didn't make sense, and it's not going to make sense to John, because obviously, they're setting John up to fail, because straight away, if he's got to go along with the academy kids and they're not ready, then at bottom line is the results won't be there, and if they get relegated, who's it to blame? John. Yeah. The fans will just look at John Coleman. They won't look at the chairman.
You don't see the bigger picture.
They don't see the bigger picture. So I think that was the start of the rot, where they were a collision course, and it kind of involving the academy and academy players. But, you know, the academy was a good thing for Accrington, and it still is a good thing for Accrington, and it's a good thing for all the clubs. But it's like anything else. When you go into these academies and set these academies up, there is money involved.
Yeah.
And yeah, you get funding, but on top of the funding, you've got to find money. You've got to pay staff's wages, and there is a lot of involvement. And the interesting part is that on another front now, there's two fronts here, because Accrington Stanley just recently has been on a collision course with Ironburn Council over the closing down and the losing of the loss of the license for the licensed premises, because of the complaints they've been getting about the noise coming from the Coley's bar and that facility. Now, again, I'm not privy to that, but I just think that if the council, on the outside looking in, if the council have been so small-minded and shut them down, then they're asking for trouble and asking for rebellion towards them, because no club can survive without that kind of facility. No. They need that facility. So Coley's bar, it's like us. We need. I mean, at the minute at Bacup Borough, we're goosed at the minute, because we're not. It's a simple fact.
That's to put it nice.
Yeah, exactly. Because we're not trading. There's nothing. We're having a refurb. There's a new build going on. We're desperate to get it open, because we're then trading and money's coming in. At the minute, money's going out like Lincoln. It's going out like turning a tap on, and water's flowing down the road. That's how money's going out. Nothing's coming back. And so if you look at it, but once that facility opens, then fantastic, and it's there to support the club.
Yeah.
That's there to support the football club, and that should kick the football club on to another level.
And it'll also be a fantastic place for the community of Bacup.
Oh, it's going to be something else. Listen, you've seen it your firsthand, Steve. Even now, as the internals have been knocked out, and seen how big the room is, and we're speaking to a company just on another one who's designed, like a seating furnishing company that's designed the internals of Aston Villa, in their corporate lounges.
So that's the level you're kind of working at.
That's the level we're working at. It's going to be something else. I mean, it's going to be amazing. Because the one thing that we've got that nobody else has got around. I'm not here to knock other venues in the area or anything, but we've got a fantastic view. When you sit in that, when you go to the window. I mean, in fact, I've done a video this morning on Instagram and put it on Bacup Story, which is only about, obviously just taking a bit of a picture about Alex being in this morning. Yeah. But at one part of that video, I've stood at the open doors, and the doors are open, and just took a magnificent view of the pitch and the backdrop. It's just on a day like today, it's fantastic. So just think about sitting in there, overseeing that view, so relaxing, and it's just fantastic. The venue will be something else, but obviously it's all about, to get it to where we want it, it's all about money, and it's been very, very difficult, and still is very difficult. I'm very grateful to the people that the business fraternity and other people that's kind of supported us in a way where they realise what it's about, and we've like our Mark Bates, for instance, the concrete.
Yeah.
We paid for it, but we haven't paid like anybody else would pay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's just, but it all helps. It helps us. It helps us finance another part of the project.
But it's great that these businesses, local companies, businesses from the region, they're all believing this. They're all believing the same vision as what? Because you've sold the vision to these businesses, and they're fully supportive of that.
Yeah, they're buying into it, and and that's it, and it's right, because it isn't. Let's be honest, this isn't for Brent Peters or Steve Brown or anybody else. This is for the community of Bacup, and it's for Bacup Borough, football club, and it's friends of Bacup Borough Football Club, and supporters and business fraternity of Bacup Borough
and you're
Football Club.
Probably looking a good 20, 30 years into the future.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we've seen what the place were when I stepped in and took over, and now, this is, listen, we can't, I'm knocking numbers off my age now, not putting them on, but listen, what I'm trying to say is I'm not going to outsee this building. This building is for the next generation. It's not for me. It's not for me. I'm just backing it, and pushing it along the way. It's for the next generation and the other generations to come.
Yeah.
But it's fantastic. But this is going back to the Accrington Stanley situation, and the Ironburn Council. For reasons or whatever. Again, I'm not privy to them, but they've taken the license and kind of basically shut that facility down. Which if you look at news items, it says that Accrington have been in breach of their sort of like their what do you call it when you've got a planning what the planning situation stated. They've been in breach of that. So I don't know. There's always two sides to a story, but one thing, rather than shut them down, I just think that you've got to get together and you've got to get round the table and you've got to resolve a situation, because a club like Accrington Stanley needs that facility, and it gives you the match day experience. And I mean, I do feel sorry for the people that's on Livingston Road, which backs onto the Accrington ground. I do feel sorry for them, and there has got to be a bit of a compromise with them as well. You've
got to feel that it must be serious, because, as you rightly say, the council will know that Accrington Stanley is the centre, the epicentre of that town. Like Burnley FC is the centre of Burnley. It's got to be something serious to close them down or even consider it. Well,
that's what I mean. I don't know, and that's why I'm not going to be here and sit on this show and start, criticising people at Accrington or even criticising Ironburn Council.
It's a big decision they've made.
Yeah, exactly. But listen, we it's like people will all have opinions of people. People, good or bad, will have opinions of me. It doesn't matter to me. It's like water off a duck's back. I'm in my own bubble. I'm around people who I want to be around, and people I don't want to be around, I won't be near them. It's as simple as that. That's the way it is. And one thing about me, which people don't like, I say it as it is. There's no airs of grace. If I don't, I'm straight to the point, and that's the way I am. Now, it's the same way with probably the chairman of Accrington Stanley. He's a successful businessman, and he says things as it is, but there's some things that he says, what he's come out to say, as me as even on the same line of him as a football chairman, I think to myself, I don't agree with that. It's a bit madness. Like when he had the situation about putting the money up for the Wrexham supporters, because he said, I've got a police bill to pay, and he went on Talk Sport, and he said the only reason that I have to pay a police bill is not from our fans, because our fans are basically good as gold, but he said it's from the opposition fans. But in my opinion, why would you penalise a club like Wrexham fans, penalise your Wrexham supporters when they're going to come and swell the coffers?
Yeah,
because of a big following and mass support. We can flip that on its head at Bacup Borough. when FC United and Manchester came into the league, the first time, I think it was, what were it when they came in? Was it about 2000 and I don't know, I can't remember, 2000 and when they first came in, 17, were it? 17, 18, 19. No, it might have been a bit longer than that.
But when they did, there were 2,000 on that game.
But every club in the Northwest Counties League got massive support. Yeah. Now, I'm only talking about Bacup Borough here. I welcomed them with open arms because I wanted the money. I weren't going to say to them, listen, you know, I've got a police bill to pay for. I need extra policing. I need extra stewarding. I just sorted it out.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to put a red carpet down that back street.
Exactly, and that's what I did. You know, I just wanted them, and we sat down. I mean, I remember sitting there with Michael Carr, and we had a meeting, and I come out with this thought process, and I thought at the time where Spar is now, that was the Bacup Leisure Centre, which had a massive car park, and also the cricket club, they had a car park. And I approached both of them and said, listen, we are not going to open our bar, right? We're only opening our bar. People, only the executives and people like, you know, the sponsors are going to have access to our bar. So all the supporters we're not going to let them in our bar. They're not going to come near our bar. But what I suggest is, what I would like to do, if it can happen, I'd like to use your car park.
Yeah.
And I'm going to sell with the price of the ticket, your car park space, but you won't get any money out of it. I don't want to give you any money.
But you can open
the bar.
Oh, it's a no-brainer.
So you'll have all your bar takings, which Rosendale Council bought into it with a leisure hall.
Yeah.
And Bacup Cricket Club bought into it from their point of view.
So as a community, that day was a win-win for everybody.
Well, it was a win-win. It was brilliant because I was selling tickets. You know, like let's say, for instance, the admission fee were like £6 to come in, and then I were charging, say, for £10, you got a park. We give them for £10, they got their admission in, and they got to park either at Bacup Cricket Ground or Bacup Leisure Hall. Now we segregated it because we had car park A was the leisure hall and car park B was the cricket club. So it were organised. Me and Michael Carr sat down and we organised that. That was and they were writing in. It was the best time. I used to love opening the mail in the morning.
The fact is, though, they weren't overcharged for the tickets.
They weren't overcharged.
The same price all season.
All season. They got everything, right? And we were welcoming with open arms, right? Now, the same thing were when Bury came, because obviously another big following. Again, we welcome them with open arms. We want them to come again. We, you know, in a daft sort of a way, we want Droylsden next season because that'll swell our coffers on a match day, you know, because they've got a great following.
Yeah.
So
that pees me off sometimes because, you know, we see it at our level of the game. I've seen it creeping in. You'll have the bigger clubs go to these games, and all of a sudden, you see a price go from £6 to £8, and you think that's naughty. That
it is naughty. I don't agree with it. You know, I you know, thankfully, you know, it's not. Listen, if you're a club like we are at Bacup, you know, we don't have the biggest gates compared to some, right? So it is what it is. It's unfortunate, you know. We've got, and don't take this the wrong way, we've got more plastic Bacup supporters than anything. Because, and why I call them plastic is because they go watching Burnley.
Yeah.
You know, I'm being honest.
Yeah, they do. So if we're
the first choice, I'll tell you what, if Burnley's kicking off at 3:00 and Bacup's kicking off at 3:00, they're not at Bacup. The ones who are genuinely Bacup fans will be at Bacup.
Yeah, we've got a problem if we're on the same day at home.
Correct. So I call them plastic blinking Bake-Up fans because they are plastic.
Yeah.
There's no two ways of getting away from it. We love them being there, and we love them being there when Burnley are away. But let's be honest, they're not ardent Bake-Up fans.
No, if there's
they're ardent Burnley fans.
Yeah.
That take an interest in Bake-Up.
Yeah. No, that's right.
So, my point is this: it's unfortunate that we don't have, but when we've got chance to have that fan base or support base coming through the turnstiles, we welcome them.
Of course we do. Because
we want it. Now, you don't start to penalise them, which seems to be what, when I listen to the interview on Talk Sport, I'm thinking, well, I don't understand this, because why would you try and penalise a club supporter because your police bill is going to be high for that game? It's just unfortunately, you know, it's going to cost you more money to stage an Accrington Stanley Wrexham game is going to cost you more money because there's going to be more fans knocking about. So instead of your usual maybe 3,000 fans on the game that day, which needs policing, you're going to end up with 6, 7, 8, 9, 10,000 fans on the game. So it's going to have a bigger police presence, which is a bit. But to supplement that situation, the volume of fans will pay for it.
Of course they will.
So I don't agree with it. So some of the things,
I saw that because he was trying to justify it, and he was trying to justify it against the wrong person because he was up against Simon Jordan, a chairman, an owner of a Premiership club. So we're never going to pull the wool over his eyes.
No, we're right. You know. So my point is, you know, I don't, and I think sometimes when I listen, I just think he could probably be a bit stubborn, and he's set in his way and he's stubborn, and
rather than slightly diplomatic.
But yeah, and I think, listen, there's nobody had. In my first 10 year at Bake-Up, I had run-ins like mad with Rosendale Council, but only because they weren't. It was only because they wasn't giving us any support in any which way, shape, or form, and it wanted sorting out, and it was the town team, and they needed to understand, and they weren't accepting it. They probably didn't know at the time about so much about Bake-Up, never made it the way to understand about Bake-Up Borough and its history and everything else, which I think is wrong. Now, things have gradually, since my involvement, have changed because our relationship, I'd like to think, with the council now is very, very good, you know, and they have been supportive. And I'm not talking money supportive because they haven't been supportive, money supportive, but they've been very supportive in other ways, you know. But that's come from building bridges and a kind of a, you know, even though if I don't like something that they're not doing. I mean, we've had flooding in the past where it comes from off the top through their land is adjacent. They've got the land of the ground and right the way up the hill. And there's water comes, and when it gets full, the water table is high. It spills over, no matter what our drains are doing, it comes into our ground. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've had run-ins with him over it. It needs sorting. You know, you've got to sort it. It's from your land, and they try and obviously they're defending their side of things because it's going to cost them money, and I'm defending my side of things because it's going to cost us money. But there has to be. So it doesn't mean to say that we bow to them, because we're not bowing to him. But it doesn't mean to say, and they're not bowing to me. But there has to be where there's a coming together, and we've got to have a sensible solution for both sides.
Yeah.
Now, this is where I come from the Accrington situation. You know, for them to come down like they've come down on their facility, like they have done, it's a strange one because, you know, it's kind of will cripple the club, in my opinion. Now then, to twist that over, whether they're trying to build bridges. But an announcement came out yesterday or the day before from Burnley Council And on the announcement that they were closing the academy, were Accrington Stanley, Burnley Council have offered them a grant of 140,000 to keep their academy going for 12 months. Now, again, I'm not 100% privy to the ins and outs because I'm on the outside looking in. But I wish
has the academy been closed because he's saying, well, hold on a minute, how can I fund this academy when you've closed my bar down?
Well, I don't know, but what I'm trying to get at, the point I'm trying to make, Steve, I know what you say, but the point I'm trying to make is, blinking heck, I wish Rosendale Borough Council had turned round to Bacup Borough and say, listen, I know you're struggling, there's a new bill going on, there's this, that going on and anything. We're going to give you 140,000 to get to get you on your feet or operate a mini academy for Bacup Borough.
And a loan over a 10-year period.
Or something like that, anything. But they don't, right? So Burnley Council going to Accrington, in my opinion, at this situation and offering them and basically saying, if they accept it, which I'll come to that in a minute because they're not accepting it, but if they accept it, that's like Burnley Council have built a load of bridges over shutting down. Do you get there? And is that, has there been some noises made because there's a load of, I mean, again, we're on the outside, but when they've shut the Coley's bar down and everything else in the match day, have they had so much blinking stick from the fans and the community of Ironburn and, that's given a load of stick, and councillors in the chambers have got together and thought, who's made this stupid decision? We shouldn't have done this. Why has this happened? I mean, it's only a minute. Let's look at last year. This time last year, with Bacup Borough, they wanted us to back them in the carnival. We won the cup last year and they wanted us on an open top buzz, right? But when it come down to the funding of the open top buzz, because don't forget the open top buzz is a costly exercise. They don't come free. They don't give you it.
It was like 500 quid.
£500, for the open top buzz. So there's like community grants you can apply for. So we apply. Normally we've got them, but last year somebody in their wisdom made a decision that we couldn't have it last year. So because we couldn't have it, we didn't support the carnival.
No.
Right? It's as simple as, because we didn't have it. But what I'm trying to get...
We're the largest sports body in the town, and we're not even there.
Yeah, exactly. And so what's happened is I know for a fact that certain people have been questioned and said, we should have had Bacup Borough in that carnival. They should have been in it. Why were they not in it? Why did that funding not be given to them? So my point is, I think the same thing could have happened over at Ironburn, but on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
Who's made that decision to shut that Coley's bar down? Who's made that decision? We're getting pelters all the time. All they're doing, letters in the paper. We're getting loads of we're going to lose our seats when it comes down to general elections.
Yeah.
And all this. So there's obviously...
When you look at the academy, I had the video on there when you started talking about the academy. I had a video of the fantastic facility there that has been put together probably in the last 2.5, 3 years. It's a brilliant facility for all the academy, the first team, everyone. Half of it's not going to get used now.
No, that's right. And
where did they come from to build it?
Well,
because there'd have been grants in there somewhere along the line.
Somebody has made this decision because they're saying it's not financial and it's going to cost us money. Now, I've read a statement this morning before I've come on air very, very quickly. And I've read this statement, and again, listen, who am I? And we've got to, we should concentrate on running Bacup Borough, not Accrington Stanley. But the fact of the matter is, they've had an offer from Burnley Council, and they're basically saying, well, it's a very kind offer, but it's not going to solve our off-field issues. That this is what's coming. And the guy who's making the statement is somebody called Warren Easton, who actually runs the club. So he must be So now that the chair, but don't forget the chairman said he was standing down at the end of the season, right? So he's obviously stepped down. So this Warren Easton and Dave Burgess are obviously the main people now who's going to be at the forefront. But I would imagine that even though he's stepping down, the chairman he's owns the club, so he's still going to have a big say. But they basically come out and said it would only solve the problem for 1 year. It needs investment. Now, I look at that underlined, it needs investment. So would it not be better? This is where I think the small-minded people, would it not be better to take the 140,000, which is helping them, and they've got now 12 months to put their house in order to try and get investment. They've 12 months to try and get investment to keep it going longer.
Yeah.
It's giving them a leg up. But no, it looks like to me, of that statement, it looks like to me they're throwing it back in the face. No, we don't want your money. Thanks very much, but piss off.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can't be right. It's like what's going on?
Yeah. So as you rightly say, the relationship between the club and the council is not very good at present.
Well, I don't think so, and I think that statement doesn't bode well with me, because in all fairness, that statement, if somebody's giving me 140,000 to manage, to say, but listen, you've 12 months to sort your blinking house in order. What's your priority? You've got breathing space because they've given you 140k.
Yeah, you've still got all the kids coming through the door, and you've the opportunity to go out there and tap in either to regional or regional businesses. Exactly,
because it says, but they're saying the club needs investment. Well, I'm not being funny. Every club I know needs investment. We need investment. We're working seriously. We're working absolutely penniless at the minute. Penniless. You know, am I worried? No, I'm not, because I know that I've got good support mechanism around us. Yeah. But at the minute, we're penniless. I'd give me right time for somebody to come and say that to me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not, at the minute, as we speak here, we are not trading. We can't trade by selling a pint of beer because we have no facility. We can't blinking serve any coffee or tea and sell that, because obviously the facilities are being revamped. So everything.
We're out of season, so no one's coming through the turnstile.
We're out of season. Nobody's coming through the turnstile. So everything's got to be, we've got to look for however we get it, and we've got to exhaust our energies on trying to get investment. Now, every club is the same. So that statement there, it says the club needs investment. Well, I'd say, welcome to the real world. We all want investment. And look how many, if you go through the Football League, especially in the lower reaches outside the Premiership, look how many clubs are for sale.
Yeah.
They're all struggling. You've got situations off top of my head here, that's coming off top of my head. Reading's another club that's in blinking meltdown.
Yeah.
Just off top of my head. So, and everybody wants that same needs investment. Well, get off your asses and try and get it. You're not going to get it. And I say this to, I had a long conversation last night on the phone to Jane. She's doing a brilliant job, fantastic. But one thing you can't do, and I know what works for Bacup Borough, one thing that you can't do, people seem to think these network meetings are all good. They're not good. Because half the time, these network meetings, the main decision makers are not at them network meetings.
No.
Them network meetings, somebody else is at them who's not the main decision maker. So you're introducing yourself to the wrong people because they can't make decisions. So I don't agree. I don't say I don't. I agree. I don't agree with them. I think they're good for understanding other people's businesses,
awareness, and knowing who else is in the market within your area.
Yeah, but they're not the decision maker. They'll have to go away and say, hey, you know what? I met a lovely lady, Jane Pallister, at this at the network meeting I went to.
Things at Birkett Borough Football Club.
Yeah, absolutely great. Managing director, or should I say, not the managing director, but let's say the Lincoln marketing director is going to say, "Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, well done. Yeah." And then you're going to say like they could do with a partnership, and he's probably going to turn around and say, "Well, no, well, it's not for us because the wrong person's been sold the dream."
Yeah,
you get me? It's second-hand Rose.
Yeah.
She needs to be speaking to the blinking main person. And it works every time when you speak to the right person and the main person. And that's what I mean. And, so there is help out there and there are people that will support. But these network meetings, I just don't fall for it. Not if you're trying to sell your wares, not if you're trying to get extra. All that does is a network meeting is a free meal and a free breakfast and a blinking introduction into somebody else's business. That's it. Awareness.
Let's move on briefly. Well, we're going to move on another academy, but this academy, absolutely flying. This week, great news coming out of Burnley Football Club, Barnfield Training Centre. It's just been awarded. Is it what is it? Category 1, is it? Or
Category A. Yeah.
Category A, yeah. Which is the
Cat
highest
one,
level.
Cat 1, yeah. Cat 1, yeah.
Which is the highest level, I believe, Brent, of academies in the country.
Yeah, it'll have been tough. It's a great achievement. It'll have been tough, but you know what? Again, it's all through business because they've got a person in there, in Chris Casper. He knows it all inside. He knows it inside out. He set everything up at Salford. His awareness. He's intelligent. He knows what it entails. He's worked for the FA. He set it up before. He's gone into Burnley Football Club. I mean, what more can you ask for? I mean, the team's got it's all good at Burnley at the minute. It's fantastic because you've got the club's that's got 100 points on the board at senior level. Fantastic achievement. Got promotion, finished runners up, but albeit on goal difference, it's like winning it really. Yeah. But obviously, not officially but it's there. Fantastic achievement. The youth team, one of the youth teams, I can't remember which one it were, which is the one that Phyllis Girk is coach of. They've won their league, so that's fantastic. That bodes well. And then you've gone down to the academy, and they've got a Cat 1 recognition, which is fantastic. And they don't. They don't hand them out like confetti. You've got to tick all the boxes. Everything's got to be right, and it's not just going to be about facilities and the way you do things. It's finance as well. That comes into it. There's no shirking.
No, they go through it with a fine tooth comb before they give those kind of categories out.
Yeah, I read comments, and I haven't spoke to Chris for a while, but I read comments on. Obviously, I'm close to Chris and Frank, but I'm also on LinkedIn with them, and I read comments that when they got it, and his wife was saying, well, "What about me that's had to support you through this?" And and he's replied, "Yeah, you have, having to see all his mood swings." Because there's been a lot of work that will have gone into that.
Oh, yeah.
And Chris will have had to do all that. And late nights and everything, and sleepless nights. And, it's just fantastic because it does take some, but now the work starts now. Because really, it's one thing getting it, it's another thing maintaining it.
Yeah. But isn't it great to see? Because you'll remember, if we go back to the late 50s, early 60s, some supporters, especially the ones who aren't old enough to remember, is Burnley was one of the first clubs in this country, if not in the world, to have its own football academy with Bob Lord as chairman.
Yeah. It's just surprising. Yeah, exactly.
Because it was Tommy Docherty's son Mick Doherty,
Mick,
who won the Youth Cup the same season that Burnley actually won the actual, well, it was the Premier League, wasn't it? Who won the first division back then?
Yeah. Well, Burnley's always been. And
it's always been at Gawthorpe.
It's always been at Gawthorpe, but they've always been a club that's always been big on youth and attracting youth. And you think about the players that's gone through Burnley, it's gone on to bigger and better things and bigger clubs at the time. When Burnley were languishing when it were the old first, second, third, and fourth division. Burnley were lower down the pecking order in the leagues, and they'd be developing young players. You think about them, and that's progressed on.
I can think one straight away back when I were a kid, and that were Martin Dobson, Trevor Stephen. Stephen went to Everton from Burnley, and we were in the second division then.
Well, you've had Trevor Stephen, Martin Dobson. You've had Brian Flynn. To name Ralph Coates. Springs to mind. Willie Morgan.
Yeah.
The list is endless.
The list is endless. We're correct. Yeah, the list is endless. And a lot of those did actually come from the northeast at the time. There was rich pickings in the northeast, and we brought them down to Burnley as young kids. And then they flourished, and some of them went on to be internationals.
Yeah, exactly. So it's always been that, and it's good. And it's good that, that everything's going. I mean, it just shows you. I mean, the Barnfield training ground is something else. Is a really good But you notice there's a really good complex. But it's the same. It's the same at Leicester City. The new training complex there is probably one of the best in Europe.
Yeah.
And they're going to go down now into the Championship. But they're geared really for the Premiership. Burnley are geared now for the Premiership. Burnley have been in the Premiership like Leicester, but they're geared. But everything at Burnley now, football club, is geared for the Premiership. Let's have it right. Whether when we're talking sense, take the supporters and the banter away. When you're talking sense, Burnley, in every sense of the word, are a fully fledged Premiership club,
and it is a well-run club.
And it's a well-run club, and they've got good people behind. And this is what it takes. They've got good people behind the scenes. I mean, when you look, if you walked into, Barnfield and see like we talked about Tony Phillisker, good guy, experience, been around a long time. Chris Casper, been around a long time. They know the score on the door, manager, even at highest level, even at the top, the first team manager, good people, good.
Yeah, and there's quality around every corner when you go into that training facility.
Unbelievable. It is. It's really good. So
let's discuss another club. We're talking about clubs that are going places, and a lot of changes going on behind the scenes, but let's just move across to Salford City, because that seems to be going. We've spoke about them quite a few times in the last couple of months. Since the chairman stepped down and Nicky Butt made that statement. But it looks like it's going to be a Gary Neville and David Beckham partnership from now on, Brent, with the future of Salford. What do you make of that one?
Well, listen. Again, I'm on the outside looking in, but I can only go off what they started and all the talk, what was said with the class of 92. Let's have one thing straight here. Let's cut away from the chase, right? It's Gary Neville's project.
Yeah.
With the class of 92. You get me? 10 years ago, he says it in his own statement. 10 years ago, we came and we wanted to give something back, and we wanted to buy into a football club. And we recognised Salford because it was close to our hearts, because we been brought up in not in Salford as such, because there's very laddies Gary and Phil. But with being at Manchester United, the Cliff were right next door to basically Moor Lane at Salford.
It was the perfect club for them at that time.
Yeah, exactly. But if you think about what happened, so forget what they've achieved or what they haven't achieved, and what they've done, right? We're now 10 years on, and literally, he's come out and made this statement about him and David Beckham and the other two guys that's come in, which are two, a former banker, Lord Mervyn Davis, and businessman Declan Kelly, right? Have come in. Now, what you've got to understand, right, and I'd be the same, irrespective of what's gone. If Gary Neville walked away from that project, let's be honest, Salford have been on a decline.
Yeah,
They can't. They've had an half decent season this season, and they were unlucky they didn't make the playoffs, right? But they've not achieved what they thought they were going to achieve. I think they've gone in there, and if Gary Neville was sat in front of me, he'd probably shout me down and say you're wrong. But I think they went in originally at Salford with their eyes not realising, with their eyes closed, not wide open, and they thought that their money and everything about them and the status,
like steamroller,
and we'd go through the leagues. Yeah. I firmly believe he thought that. And then I firmly believe that things were getting tougher and tougher, like it does. Like I've told you, football clubs are cash cows. And I think what's happened, once Peter Lynn's money came out...
Yeah.
Listen, don't say this is right, what I'm saying.
It created a big problem.
I'm not stupid. When Peter Lynn's money came out, it created an issue because there was a big void there. There was a massive void. And I think at that time, which is the last couple of years, they've struggled because they haven't had that backing, right, to come again. So I think if I, as an outsider looking in, I think that what Gary's done is a bit of shrewd business here, because it was either the last thing he'll want, like a hole in the head, is for Salford to go back into non-league football, and because that'll be seen as a complete failure.
Yeah, that'd kill him,
and that'd rip him, right? And the class of '92 would be absolutely slaughtered in all ends up. They'd be ridiculed.
It wouldn't be fair, but they'd get ridiculed.
Yeah, exactly. So I think what's happened is that Gary, and he's rightly so, he's looked at the project and thought, we're in free fall here.
Yeah.
I need to make some serious business decision. Now, the only way, as it were all well documented that David Beckham and out in LA and all that, we're buying a club out there and everything else. Now, who better to go to, and who is already in his pocket, basically, because the mates, they've been brought up, they're like brothers, right? They were very close. He's obviously got into David Beckham, 100%, right? And then obviously, which happens, through the connections, they've got into the two, they've got into this Lord Mervyn Davis and Declan Kelly now, so it's a new era now. It's a new era.
But the void that was left by Lim, hopefully with Gary getting, with David and the other two on board, he'll fill that void.
Yeah, but where I'm coming from now, but let's talk about. I'm hoping that they don't make the mistake that they've made in the first 10 years. Because listen, I don't care what anybody says, and I'm not on the front, but a front row because I've not worked under them or with them. But listen, this is the first 10 years. How can you have this situation? So, Anthony Johnson and Bernard Morley were the manager from August 15th to May 18th, 2018, right? Graham Alexandra, so they sacked them and bring in Graham Alexandra. He's the manager from May 2018 to October 2020. He gets sacked or resigns or does whatever.
Now they're in 5th.
They bring Paul Scholes in for a month to settle the blinking shit. October 20th to November. October 2000 to November 2000. Then they appoint Richie Wellen in November 2000 to March 2021. Then he goes. Then they appoint Lee Bauer, March 2021 to May 2022. Then they appoint Neil Wood, May 2022 to December 23. And then currently they appoint Carl Robinson from January 2024. So in that period, they've had 6 managers, and they're on the 7th manager now. Now, I'm sorry, but you need sustainability and continuity. And that isn't continuity. They set Graham Alexander, as you rightly just said then, or something happened when they were 5th in the league.
Yeah.
Right? Graham Alexander, right, with the backing of Bradford, has taken Bradford up.
Exactly.
Right?
And Richie Wellens has done a fantastic job at Leyton Orient.
And exactly. That tells me and smacks me in the eye, right, that between them all, how can you work for a body of people? Listen, as a football person and as a supporter of Manchester United, as footballers, I used to love watching Gary Neville, Phil Neville, obviously Nicky Butt, Paul Scholes, loved him to bits as a footballer, but how can you work under these people who are going to be there, watchful eye, and haven't got they might be good footballers, but haven't had the first clue of football management, right? And the ethics of football management. And without anybody saying anything else, Bobby Charlton was a fantastic footballer, right? Went to manage Preston North End, fell on his backside, God rest his soul, right? Doesn't happen, can't always do it. So the fact that they were good footballers, right, and they played under one of the best in Sir Alex Ferguson, doesn't mean that they could, everything that they say is kosher and right. And it seems to me...
You see it on TV every Saturday with the pundits. Some of them pundits have played 20, 30 years of the game. But when you listen to them speaking, they sound like they don't know anything about the game.
Yeah, exactly. And then they can't agree. They don't agree. But the point is, and you watch the Class of 92, that programme, the series of all that, it were obvious. The fact of the matter is, and I always stick on one of them when they were on about, I think, Bernard and Jono, and they were on about, we have to get out this league. We have to do this. There's no given right for any team in any league to get out of any league. No. You can throw any amount of money you want. Who'd have thought that Manchester United and Tottenham, who are now, which probably something else we'll come on to in a minute, they're both in a European final and they're blinking just above the relegation line.
Yeah, the top sides can't get into a European Cup final.
You get me? So this is the unpredictability of football. It's football. So all your millions and your multi-millions is not going to guarantee you success. We've seen it this season. Teams that's had money, and thrown money at it and had loads of money, they haven't necessarily had success. It's not happened. No. They've won nothing, right? So you can't. It's the old saying: you can't necessarily buy success. So my point is that Salford template. There's been a lot of issues. They've had some good managers there. In every one of them managers on there are good managers. Every one of them. Jono, Bernard, Graham Alexander, Scholes, he only did it for a month, but we'll take him out of it because he's got no credibility as a manager. Richie Wellen, well-respected Lee Bauer, I don't know. I'm not. I don't really know much about that, Neil Wood. But and then Carl Robinson. I mean, he's always done. He's done
MK Dons.
reasonable.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, they've had good managers there. They've had them, and they've targeted them. Now, my point is, going forward now with the Beckham regime and Gary, you know, and they keep saying that they're going to bring a new chief executive in to run it. Listen, run it. Identify the manager you want. If it's Kyle that you think he's the man to take you forward, support him, back him to the hill. Don't interfere.
Yeah, I think that's a big point. Don't interfere, because we're not privy, but I have a feeling that there's a lot of interfering going on down at that training ground.
100%. It's obvious there's interference going on. And then you can imagine that, I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't sign him. And I wouldn't have made that. So, and they're there watching the game. And then you can imagine, you see Roy Keane sometimes sat in the blinking crowd with him and the executive box after. And you can imagine they're having the blinking gin and tonic in there and going, why did he make that substitution on blinking 18, on blinking 75 minutes? And why has he put him on? Why did he not do this and do that? Well, hang on. He can't manage the game through you guys.
No.
He manages it how he sees it.
Yeah. But
you've got to shut that
off. A good relationship at any club, you look at a club that is really successful, and it usually comes hand in glove with a chairman who is a chairman and a manager who's a manager, and they don't interfere in each other's roles.
Well, that's how it should be. You don't interfere. Everybody has opinions. Yeah. Simon Holding will get in my car. I mean, I'm not sitting around Bacup. I've been at Bacup 28 years. Let's get this straight, right? 28 years I've been at Bacup, and I never saw Simon Holding anywhere near Bacup Borough after being a long-established member, a playing member of the club, right? Simon Holding hasn't been around that club until the last probably 3-4 years. So where's he been the last 24 years? He ain't been near. He's another plastic Burnley fan, a Bacup fan. Plastic as they make them, right? So my point is, he will get in my car. Oh, I think you need to just strengthen our centre half there. He'll start giving it that, and I'll say, Simon, what do you know? He only watches every blinking Preston Guild, and you start making an opinion. And next thing, you'll be talking, stood at the side of Roger Rindle, and how many times are you talking to Roger, turning your head, talking to him in a conversation, right? And then you'll turn around and say, Alex Mellor's done something extra special, and you'll go to me, oh, I didn't think that red-headed lad did right well today. I said, did you not see that blinking superb blinking defence splitting pass that he did that went through and we scored off it? Oh, I don't remember that. Well, stop talking to Roger.
Yeah. And
concentrate on the game.
But Roger can have an opinion because he's a true supporter.
Well, yeah, he can have an opinion, yeah. But everybody can have an opinion. There's not a problem. But what I'm saying is, right, the trouble is everybody's got an opinion. Yeah, they've got an opinion. But the manager's the manager. He makes the decisions, and he's got his support staff, which is his coaches. They sit round tables, they sit down, they discuss things, they look at the analytics, they look at the data, they look at everything. In modern day now, they're all wired up. They see how many, my players, I wish they were, because then I'd be able to say, freaking hell, you've only done bloody 5 kilometres today, but it just shows you've done nothing. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're all wired up. They know what they've done. The charts go up and see how far they've gone, what distance they've run on a pitch and everything. Everything. It's all data. It's all data driven. But the fact of the matter is, the manager, support staff, they have the meetings. Why would you listen, no disrespect, to your chairman and other co-directors? So obviously, going back to the class of the 92, unless the class of 92, in my eyes, with all those managers, should keep their mouth shut, keep their opinions to themselves, right? Don't interfere. And the only way that they should get involved is if John O'Bernard or Graham Alexander and Chris Laquette or Rick Llewellyn went to him and said, hey, Paul, can I ask you a question? could you give me a bit of advice on this? What happens if, what would you have done in this situation? Or what would you have done? What would you have done in that situation? And then Paul, that's different because he's gone to ask their advice.
Yeah.
But don't stand in the background and start giving you blinking what you do and what you think you should do and all that and judging by how you do it.
Yeah,
so my point being,
that's just going to create friction.
It's going to create friction and there's issues and you can't work in that environment. And I'll tell you now, if you notice, none of them managers have ever come out and said anything.
No.
Right? One day it will all come out. But at the minute, it hasn't come out because they've signed, and I know because they're not stupid, they'll have signed declarations that they cannot go, whatever's gone on, and talk about it and repeat it. So nobody knows. Nobody knows. We're only second guessing. But you don't go through, what I'm trying to say is in that 10 years, right, they're no nearer. They've progressed from non-league to a football league. They've got a great stadium, right? They've got an academy going, which is good. So they've got all that set up going. They've invested in the training ground, so they've done fantastic with that. That's fantastic, brilliant. But there seems to be a lot of interference. So now, the next 10 years going forward, I would hope that David Beckham and Gary Neville and these other two guys, right, along with the new chief executive who will be coming in, just allow who they put their trust in to get on with the job. And if they allow that to happen and not interfere, I do think that you'll see a progression in Salford City.
Totally agree. You mentioned it all. We're going to finish off today's show with good news for Manchester United. This man, Ruben, first full season at the club now, and great job since coming in, I would say. Some people would probably question it, but he's got them to a European final.
Well, let me start by saying the ones who question it obviously know nothing about football and are small-minded people, because a guy coming in that, if they don't understand football and understand that you have to work with transfer windows, you can't just put players off you can't just put players off a blinking Christmas tree. You inherit what you've got, and you've got to make the best of a bad bunch, right? And that's what you've got to do, and that's all he can do. And he's having to work with a bad bunch. And let's make no bones about it, they're a bloody bad bunch. And let's not cut anything away from the chase here. The other night I sat and watched and was glued to that television, and for probably 70 minutes they were bloody dire. Seriously, they were dire. And as a manager, he sat down there on the line. He'll be knowing exactly the same. The dire, but he has to try and do something about it, and try and hope that he'll do something which creates a spark. And let's make no bones about it. They conceded a goal. They were winning 3-0. They conceded a goal, and I'm telling you, in that 65, 70 minutes, if they'd have conceded a second, United would have collapsed. I'm telling you, United would have collapsed. But they didn't. They managed to hold on. And when he made the substitutions, he's got Ahmad back. He's been out injured. He just turns blinking defence situations into attack situations. So straight away there's a difference. I've been nothing but impressed with Mason Mount since he's come back from all his injury trouble. Yeah. Really impressed with him, and it was so refreshing to hear the manager speak about him. He said, "I love Pete." He said, "I will back people that work hard for themselves." He said, "I come in every day here, And he said, and whilst he was going through injuries, he does everything right. He said he comes in. He said his recovery. He said he's having ice baths, and he said and then he's out there on the training ground, and he's doing extra sessions on the training ground, and then he's recovering. He's back into ice baths. He's doing everything he's doing. He said, and he's working his socks off and trying. He said, I will work with them all day long, which is great, Kobe Manu came on as well, and he's a good player who he's had missing. So all of a sudden he's got good players back, and they made a difference in that last 15 minutes. And goals change games, goals change people's mentality. So for me, Ruben, anybody that says that he's probably not the right man and his tactics and all that, listen, they're not looking at the bigger picture. And he could still, and even now, when he said in his interview, I'm really concerned. I'm under a lot of pressure. He said, it's great to get there. It's great to get to the final, but it means nothing if we don't win it. We have to win it. Yeah. And he's right. He's got the right mentality. We've got to win it. You've heard me saying to you, even in it's all right to get into cup final stage, but we need to win it.
Yeah.
It's not one of my speeches in pre-match where I've turned around and said, and you played it regular on the videos where it says, and I said, people don't remember losers; they'll always remember winners.
Yeah. Nobody remembers who comes second.
Nobody, exactly. So the thing is, I won't judge him on winning a trophy. That's wrong. The fact of the matter is, he's done a very, very good job with a bag of shit.
Yeah. And in a short space of time.
And he knows, and he's not sure. And the one thing that I do like about him, right, I know in Agri said it after his interview, he's honest and he's straight. You can relate to everything he says, whereas other managers, they're frightened of saying anything.
Yeah, you can. In the press conference, I've been really impressed the way that he comes across. He almost got a bit of Fergie in him. How honest he is and how he can control the media room.
Yeah, I agree.
He never sits on the fence.
No, I totally agree. He's straight, and everything he says is good, and you know where you are with him. Everybody knows where they are with him. And you can tell the players love him. You can tell. Look at Casemiro, and he's got. You could see the bond.
Well, another man. Well, he's going to be in the other dugout, but this man don't sit on the fence either. He's a straight batter.
I like him as well.
I like him. I've liked Ange ever since he came to the UK when he went to Celtic for them few seasons.
Yeah,
straight
I like
batter,
him.
No nonsense. Pretty old school as well, Brent.
Yeah, he's good. I like him. I like him a lot, and I like his football philosophy and everything. In fact, the final will be a great final because, the two very, very good, honest attacking teams.
Yeah.
It
could be a lot of goals. It could be a lot of goals in that final.
Yeah. It'll be a good final. I mean, listen, I've got the utmost respect for Ange and the way he plays and his team. And if it weren't Man United in the final, I'd be obviously rooting for him. I want him to do well.
Why do you think he's struggled? He's not struggled going forward, very expansive, get into good areas, score goals. Do you think he just needs to maybe if he keeps his job, because there are questions, people are saying that he might lose his job at end of the season, but you think it's just a case of building that defence, and then all of a sudden he's got a side which is going to be in a position to compete at the top end of the league?
Well, I think you can always listen. You can always strengthen. You can always look at things. But I think if you look back over Tottenham over the seasons or over this last year, he's been like United. They've struggled injury wise. He's lost some good players injury wise, and people don't understand unless you're in the game. You know, injuries have a big bearing. If you've got a win and the way you play, you know, and you lose key players in that. I keep talking regular about well-oiled machines. You know, everybody knows. Why would you have a player? You know, like you're a well-oiled machine. You've got everything. You're going well. You've had big games. You're doing well in the big games, and then all of a sudden the player comes back from injury or whatever, right, and tries to reinvent the wheel because he doesn't believe in your philosophy, or doesn't believe, and he's trying to rock the boat and change what you're good at, and hasn't been part of it. You wouldn't have them. Then players will be out the door. You know, but players are like that. Some players are like that, right? But he's had that, and he's had that situation where he's had injuries, and he's had probably players that's come in like, but he's believed in his philosophy. They've got him where they've got him, and he hasn't been the best. And it worked. And he hasn't been the best in the league because games are league games, as they are. But in the European games, they've done well. You know, and it's the same with Ruben. You know, let's be honest, half of the United team it's bad recruitment. It's nothing to do with shapes, formations, or anything. Listen, football at the end of the day, forget your shapes. Forget it. It's all about the individual player.
Yeah.
It's simple. Whatever shape you play. And there's no given right in shapes, is there? Because you've got successful managers that play 3-5-2, but you've also got successful managers that play 4-2-3-1.
Yeah, it comes down to the individual. It comes down to work rate, commitment, dedication, preparation,
Correct.
which is a good one, which you always talk about. But if
Correct.
you don't have that balance, then you're not going anywhere quick.
No, exactly. And then you get players that, I don't know. I mean, I can only talk about things that go on at Bacup Borough. You know, and I'm sorry, even though I say it all the time, I've got players in that changing room, right, that some of them have been around a football league environment where they've had a good upbringing, right? They've been coached from an early age and, you know, learnt the ethics of, you know, they don't work on team shape until you're older, but they know the disciplines and the ethics. So but there's only a minority. The majority have come, and the highest level that they have played at is Bacup Borough.
Yeah.
Right? And they've only been in changing rooms where, you know, let's take amateur football. You've got amateur football, and I would say that in most cases in amateur football, the manager just organises them, G's them up,
Fills the bottles.
fills the bottles, whatever, gets them organised, goes out, and they goes out. But when they finish playing at half time and full time, the players will come in, brush themselves down. Well, if they've lost, they'll go, you know, we let ourselves down there, lads, today. But there won't be any highlighting how they've let themselves down or how did a goal get conceded.
Yeah, there's no debrief.
There'll be no debrief. It'll be just like, you know, linking out, we should have done better there. It got stuck, ball got stuck under my foot. I couldn't really clear it. And let's go pub. Yeah, exactly, that mentality. But then they're in a changing room like ours, whether it's with Brent Peters, whether it's with Dave Felgate, whether it's with Andy Hill, whether it's be, you know, like Andy Barlow, or whether it's with whoever.
Yeah, but all of a sudden you're being made accountable for your actions.
Accountable because we're in a level of football, and you're dealing with people that's been a part of higher levels of football. And the higher you go up, that happens in every changing room. Now, you've got some players that will buy into it and accept it, even though they don't like it because you're being scrutinised. But you'll get other players that won't like it and try to drop bombs and say, it's fucking a lot of shit when he's doing. He's fucking negative. He's this, he's that, he's that.
Try and bring you down to his level.
You get, exactly, which don't work. And then people, you know, I can see through them people, and it'll be a good night, Vienna. See you later. You get me?
Yeah.
And kind of even to the point that can happen sometimes in a football league level. But managers has got to be strong, and same thing. But it's a bit more difficult in a football league level because you're usually dealing with multi-millionaire players that are sat on decent contracts. So it's not like you can say good night Vienna.
No.
All you can do is go and make them train at the other side of Lincoln training.
There's greater pressures to try and make it work. Where at our level, you can actually say, get your bag. Your surplus and requirements.
Exactly. But then when you get in players, if you drop down, I mean, it's so refreshing when you've got like a changing room like with David May in it, and you've got a changing room with Ben Thornley in it,
yeah,
and then you've got a changing room with Ian Hughes in it. Well, so you've got a Welsh international, right? You've got Ben Thornley, who's played at Manchester United. David May has been a treble winner.
Peer pressure in that changing room's already there.
It's already,
your job becomes quite
so
easy.
And even and they relate to what you're saying anyway, because they understand you're right in what you're saying. But get somebody who's never been at that level and had that put in their mindset. They're on a different page, and they don't think that should. They think what's right is the amateur side of things, how they do it, not how the professionals do it. Well, at Bay Cup, we do it how the professionals do it. Yeah. And you've
got to have a lot of respect for non-league football, even step 6. Well, because the gap between step 6 and, let's say, West Lancs or whatever is a massive gulf.
Massive. It's massive. But it all comes down, like I said, though, it's individual players. It's look, amateurs is what it says. It's amateur, and that's not being disrespectful to them. But they turn up. It's a game of football, so they'll think, I'm playing football this afternoon, kicking off at 2. I'll tell you what, I'll get to the ground at, we kick off at 2. I'll get there at 1:15. It doesn't matter. I'll rack up and do that. It's like no discipline. There's no regimen. They're all mates together, and like I said, they'll not be scrutinised. They'll not be. I'm not saying they won't be organised. They will be organised. They will be. Surely that's the minimum the manager will do is organise them in terms of today we're playing 4-2-3-1. This is what I expect. But if they're running all over the place in 4-2-3-1, he won't be stopping them and going, I don't want that to happen. I want this to happen. So they'll be allowed to do. I mean, let's go back to our situation at Atherton LR. Not that many weeks ago, it was a car crash. But the old saying is, I gave them enough rope to hang themselves because I knew there were players in there that could be indisciplined.
Yeah,
but they got picked. But they got picked for a reason. They got picked because I felt were they ready for the cup final, and this will tell me because this is the strongest game we've got left.
Yeah, the spotlight was well and truly on them that day, weren't it?
So the spotlight were on them. And also, are they going to come in here and do what we want them to do in discipline, in being in discipline, in terms of the roles and responsibility? And the answer to that question were on all fronts, no, they weren't. And because they weren't, there was a car crash. And when you get one player that comes to the sideline that hasn't even been around us all season and tries to change things and say, can we go zonal? Do we have to go and follow a man? Well, no. And coach says, no, you can't. Well, that tells you all you need to know.
Yeah, it kind of answers its own question, doesn't it?
It answers its own question. He wanted the tail to wag the dog.
Well, it can do that in West Lancs. Its tail can wag, but not higher up the football pyramid.
Exactly. So,
yeah, great show, Brent. Absolutely quality show. Lots of talking points. Same again next week, 9 a.m. Rewind show. What have you got planned for the week?
Well, I know what I got planned this afternoon. Now, when I go back up to the club, see how the lads are doing. And onwards and upwards.
Onwards and upwards. Cheers, mate. Thanks a lot.
See you, Paul.